If we haven't met before, I'm Sarah, an end-of-life planning advocate normalizing conversations about end-of-life and estate planning before those conversations are necessary. I mostly talk about estate planning, stuff that might not directly impact or benefit you, but that will help your people wrap up your affairs at some unknown point of time. But the more I work in estate planning, the more I realize how much of the stuff that your people will need to wrap up your affairs one day, if you do it now, will help you lead a better and more organized life today. Completing a home inventory, creating a spreadsheet of your financial accounts, documenting your passwords. Today's idea is 100% in the category of something that will benefit you today, a personal health file. A few years ago, I had a series of health checkups. Every doctor's office that I went to made me fill out an intake form, even doctors that I'd been to before. Each time I had to recreate the list, my health history, appointment dates, test results, medications. It was super annoying to have to recreate the same list of information every single time. Try as I might, I'd forget the specific date of past appointments, or I wouldn't remember exactly how a specific diagnosis or treatment plan was phrased, and which grandma was it that had glaucoma? It's the type of information that lives in a gray area. I don't need it often enough that it's obvious that I need it to keep a record of it, but I need it often enough to make it super annoying to have to recreate the list every single time I need it. Needing the same information 2 or 3 times over the course of a single week really made me realize that I needed to do something. A while back, I read an article in Self Magazine about creating a 30-minute health file. A link to the original article will be in the notes. This seemed like just the solution to my recent medical information problem. This binder isn't meant to be a complete health record, but instead a brief listing of all your medical information. For me, it's also a designated place to write down questions so that I remember what issues I want to raise at my next appointment. I love the binder that I started for myself. I recently started transferring all of the random sheets of loose leaf paper that I started with into a more formalized workbook, and I filmed a flip through of that file before I filled it up with all my personal information. This is a personal health file. So far I just had loose leaf papers but I'm formalizing that a little bit of information about me, information about health history and family history that I can now, this is in a separate binder, so next time I go to a doctor, I can just bring this binder, and then when I have to fill out that little intake form and I have to give my family history of what medical conditions did my grandmother have, I can have all of that documented here, and I don't have to recreate that list every time. Medication history is here. History and conditions of current diagnosis, past diagnosis. Healthcare providers, and just have a short summary of primary care doctors, specialists, eye doctors, mental health professionals, and all that can be in a single place. Something I always need because time is weird, appointment history. When were my appointments? What was the purpose? What was the outcomes? Follow-up questions. So within this document, I can have notes about what the findings were, what my questions were. I can be prepared with questions for follow-up questions in the future. I'll also have, since I have a printout from my doctor, I have a separate tab for vaccinations and test results, since all those are printed documents that I get from my doctor, so that has a tab that will go here, and then I will also include a copy of my personal advanced care directive here as well. My doctors have all of that in their records as well, but some of these documents, it's good to keep together, and it's good to have them easily accessible every time you go to the doctor. So that's in a separate binder. And I consider that to be part of my When I Die binder setup, even though this is really more for me, but in my life, it just makes sense to have it all fit together and keep these together as a lot of information about me that somebody, either me or somebody else, might need to know at some point. So that is what is in my binder will be in my binder when I finish the update, so I can make something that's a little prettier than my random sheets that I've been keeping for years. Your personal health file can look like whatever will be most beneficial to you. Your file can be digital or analog, although personally, I found an analog 3-ring binder to be the best option, since I have physical printouts from my doctor that I want to include. I also don't want to be at the mercy of the hospital or clinic Wi-Fi gods. I am a believer in Murphy's Law. If it was all digital, I am positive that I would have tech issues that would prevent me from being able to access my information at the exact moment I need it. And I intentionally made mine a separate binder from my When I Die binder so that it's something that I can easily grab when I'm going to an appointment. There are no rules about what should be included in your binder. You should include whatever you think you or your people will find helpful or beneficial. It's a balance. Too much information and it will be too overwhelming to be useful. Too little and it will be too underwhelming to be useful. A few items to consider including in your binder include basic biologic and demographic data like height, weight or weight range, and blood type. A basic health history, including vaccination records, a health history of major issues among your biological parents, siblings, and grandparents, and a tracker for vital signs like pulse or blood pressure. The name and contact information for your primary care doctor, specialists, dentists, eye doctors, and mental health professionals or other providers. What has been most beneficial to me, an appointment history, including the date of the appointment, who it was with, the purpose of the visit, outcomes and test results, follow-ups, and notes. A list of concerns and symptoms, including relevant dates and a description of your symptoms, and questions you have. For me, these are often the questions that I think of in the middle of the night when I wake up worried about something. Write those down so you remember them next time you go to the doctor. A list of your conditions like allergies, injuries, and diagnoses, including a date of the diagnosis, your doctors or specialists, test results, treatments, and medications. Medical devices you use and medications you are on, including the date of the prescription, who prescribed it, and dosages. And finally, consider including copies of documents like your living will or your advanced care directive and a copy of the document appointing your healthcare agent, as well as the contact information for the person appointed as your healthcare agent. Again, include anything else that you or your people will find helpful or beneficial. Everyone's situation is different and requires access to different kind of information. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and also consider hitting the subscribe button for regular end-of-life and estate planning information.